Hi there, Vibe Gardeners. In this episode of Vibe Gardening Informed Edition, we're going to go over the conclusion of our rosemary water propagation uh, setup here with transplanting this rosemary into actual soil here and how I'm going to mix it. With that said, let's go. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at what happened to these propagated rosemaries. So let's look at them one by one. So this one, as you can see, there's plenty of roots growing at the bottom. So this has been about 4.5, almost 5 weeks since I put it in. I know it's only about 4 weeks. Honestly, these roots have been developing starting in about after 1, maybe 2 weeks, and are ready for propagation at that point. But just to be safe, you see how well these roots are growing and how healthy these rosemary are. This is classic water propagation, making them very healthy. This one's a little bit yellowing, but I still think they look very healthy. I mean, look at this. I mean, I didn't exactly change the waters exactly 2 to 3 days like I should be, but overall, I mean, they're very forgiving. I just made sure the water level always comes up to right here, right under the leaves. And that really made it very healthy. And you have to remember, plants are forgiving, but you got to make sure you give them enough of what they need to help them thrive. So with that said, let's talk about how to get the soil ready for these guys to make them happy. So one thing about rosemary I found from this season is that the requirement for rosemary is very simple. The soil doesn't actually have to be that um, rich or even that good. I mean, yeah, there's a rural drainage thing you want to do here, but simple um, raised bed potting soil was really just all it needs. And it's not very picky. Now, a lot of people will say you want to give it lean soil and all, but honestly, like they'll thrive in anything. And from what I can tell, but the main thing is you want it to be able to drain well and give it good sun, which is another thing I'm going to get into. So we have here potting soil mix, the cheapest thing I got from Menards, and again the perlite that I've used previously in my other experiments. Perlite is given a drainage, that way it's going to, and also structure. So that way it's going to give it a little bit more extra, but I'm not going to make it go crazy. I'm not going to make it look like it's snowflake and everything, but it's going to be enough to make it happy. Because of forgiving nature of rosemary, I'm going to really do everything by vibe here. So I'm going to basically just scoop out potting mix to be about however much I feel like it's necessary. That should be a good amount of potting soil. Now we're going to add a bunch of perlite. As you can see, the soil already has some perlite, but due to the nature of the need of the rosemary, we're going to add plenty more, and we're going to mix it in. And when you're working on perlite, if you can, always work on it outside if you can. And yeah, we're going to keep mixing this. So there you have it. I just mixed in the perlite into the potting mix. And the soil here is very spotty with white dust. And that's what essentially perlite is. It's a volcanic rock that is meant for this type of thing. And so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to divide it in half. Going to use this side for the propagated rosemary. And this side future, I'm going to experiment in planting rosemary from seeds into the soil to see how that compares to the propagated rosemary in long-term health. So with that said, here we go with planting it. So we're going to take each one of them and we're going to just take it out of the water, and we're going to just make sure it's unwind the roots a little bit. Well, it's actually really not wind, it's really just the tube. So I'm going to put one right here, and simply, just very easily put it in and make sure it's got enough compaction to give it upright situation. And I'm going to use that water to water it. Keep in mind with these things, now this is actually from this water here is actually from a RO filter in our sink. It's actually not the best water to water with, as Ashley from Gardening Canada has shown. Is that RO filter, because of the ionization of the water, will change the pH and actually drains nutrition from the soil. And that's something you want to avoid. So we'll definitely have to water it using regular tap water coming up. But this watering basically right now is to let it pack in to the soil to give it some good old structure to the rosemary here, one by one. And, yep. And honestly, spacing I don't think really matters all that much. I mean, there are guidelines for it, but this is where the vibe part of gardening comes in. I've seen them grow, and I see them in very packed locations, especially in nature. Because you don't really control where the seeds fall in nature, right? So what we're doing here is we're essentially putting them in a diamond shape, and this is kind of how far I see them land in real life. And yeah, so once we get it tangled a little bit, and I have to remember these are plants. They are very versatile, and the nature of plant is they want to survive like humans. So here we are. We have now all 4 of them planted. And next phase, we're going to give it a little water. Now get a nice little deep watering. Get some simple tap water. Give it a nice little introduction to life in a pot. And with that, generally speaking, I'm going to give it a nice drenching watering every 4 to 7 days. And because these things don't need that much water, they just need a lot of sunlight. I don't have this set up because I'm going to be building a plant table next to my west-facing window. It's facing the backyard out here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a light for basically supplemental light here for winter. I'm going to time the light to basically be able to shine on this during the morning, as between about 2 to 3 p.m. The west-facing wall will get the most amount of sun in the afternoon. And when that comes in, I'll be able to take advantage of the full sunlight. So that's how I'm going to plan to let these things thrive in the winter when the time comes. So there you have it. This concludes our 2-episode series on water propagating rosemary, and now it's in the soil. I will update you guys later through the winter on this will become a rosemary garden here, and then I'm going to be doing other herb gardens for this series of winter gardening in the house. And so with that said, keep gardening and keep vibing.